Hello, everybody, and welcome to the University of Atlantia's Instructor Spotlight for the month of July 2022. And today we have with us some amazing people from the Rapier community to lead us in a discussion about what they've been doing to revamp the Academie d'Espée, which is now an official warranted guild. There's a word that goes
Chartered.
with that. Chartered. Thank you. You see, that's why I'm here, to learn. To lead our discussion is the magnificent Baroness Caradwyn Fairchowen. So my friend, she and her friends are going to lead us through this discussion. I am going to keep my camera off and I'm going to spotlight Caradwyn. So here we are, and take it away, Caradwyn.
All right. Thank you, Baroness Sophia. I am joined here by a number of rock stars. I have, and I am probably going to miss someone, so please forgive me. I've got Master Adon, Master Giacomo. I'm not sure if Baron Elfin has come on, Master Lloyd. Baroness Latia was also supposed to come on. I'm not sure if she's on as well. Lord Ishmael and Lord Fernfell. We have a number of people here who have been working on this project. And basically what this spotlight is going to be is a spotlight on the Academie d'Espée, the Royal Chartered Guild of Atlantia. And the process, what happened before, what happened during, and what's coming. So I'd like to start off with a tiny bit of history, just because there hasn't always been rapier in Atlantia, and in the late 80s that sort of kick-started and went off. And there was an Academie d'Espée guild that was created at that time to create community. It was based on the London Masters of Defense, and it created the free scholar concept, where 3 provosts could get together and make a free scholar. So that's sort of the really, really old history. And I know that Master Adon has put into the chat a link so that people can see the 30-year history. Master Adon, would you like to speak to that briefly at all?
Very briefly, just to correct, the initial start was just showing support of Rapier in Atlantia to make it successful. When the first award was given, the original Academie d'Espée award, that's when the original structure was started. And the first 4 provosts were made, Joffrey, Giacomo, Niall, and Gregoire, who later became Nathaniel. If you follow the guidelines there, as that progressed, then we started adding ranks and free scholars and the rest of that. But it was originally based on the London Masters of Defense, a lot because that was about the only source that we had, because it started in English and was read in English, as opposed to all the translations of the Italian and Spanish and other stuff that we have available today. So it grew over time. It was never, the current discussion is the first time of sitting down and saying, let's discuss this as a whole in our current situation, because it grew in bits and pieces and bounds as the culture changed, and there's lots of things where it did not grow smoothly, in my opinion.
Thank you so much for that really brief overview. Thank you. The Order of the White Scarf was created after the White Scarf Treaty was signed by Gelmer and Katarina. I hope I am correct in that bit of history. And so once the White Scarf Treaty was signed, the Order of the White Scarf became one of the Kingdom level awards, the Grant level awards. And that was another milestone in our history. And then, of course, we had the Order of the Masters of Defense that was created. And what year was that created in, Giacomo or Adon, being 2 of the premiers?
6 years ago.
6 years ago. Okay, thank you. And so with all of these changes and all of this movement, the project that we as a group created was created because the guild had a lot of moving parts. And there was a group of people that came together and said, what are we doing? How are we doing it? And how can we move forward with this sort of as a group? And so those folks began talking and having discussions, and it was rolling right along in both a positive and a negative fashion, because change is difficult. So then the pandemic happened, and when we were coming back out of the pandemic, it was decided that it was time to start discussing this again, because what we wanted to do is create a structure where the guild was helping everyone in the best way possible and that we could reach consensus. So what we decided was we would create a process team to discuss how to go about this. And I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege here, please. And I would like to thank everyone who was on the process team, as well as the data team, because that was the second bit, because we had to figure out where we were going. And then we had to make sure that the populace of Atlantia was being heard, because we wanted all of those voices to be in our discussion. So we did a number of data dives. We did three. Fernfell, help me. Is it three? Two. Okay. We did two surveys of the self-appointed membership of the academy, or anyone who was fencing. First was demographics and things like that, and then there was a deeper one, the second one, and then the data had to be crunched. The data was then presented to people in a couple of presentations, one being at an event, the second being a virtual presentation. So my moment of personal privilege would be to thank the following people who volunteered for and served on either the process team or the data team. We had Master Giacomo, Baron Lachlan, Mistress Elena, Lady Kathleen, Master Lloyd, Ellerette Lauliere, Master Percy, Baroness Latia, Baroness Sophia the Orange, Lord Ishmael Steadfast Reed, Lord Jacques Gonce, Lord Cataldo Carini, Lady Colette Vitalis, Lord Fernfell, Lord Farthane, Master Joffrey Gamble, Lady Talia de Morales, Lord Deflatormouse, Lord Cataldo, and Baron Elfin, and I think that I have gotten all of them, but if I have not, there were a lot of people that put their voices in so that everyone could be heard. So that is what we did. We took that data. We then had a charter writing team. We had a bylaws writing team. We presented that to their majesties. We again asked for people to self-identify as members of the Académie d'Espée. And then we took a vote of those people and we polled them to make sure that the majority of the people could either chose the bylaws from a number of different choices and approved of the charter, and then their majesties accepted that, signed it, and we became a royal chartered guild. So are there any questions at this point? I'm not actually watching the chat as I'm speaking, so if there are any questions in the chat, maybe we could field those at this time, and then I'd like to ask Fernfell to talk about data just a bit. Are there any questions?
No questions so far.
No questions. Okay. So Fernfell, would you speak to the data and the things that we found? I mean, I know that one of the things that we found was that people wanted the academy to still exist. That was one of our questions, right? Do we want to kill the academy and just start over and do something new? And I know that that was one of the things that we found. So that was actually good because our work would have been particularly moot if no one wanted it. So could you speak to that, Fernfell?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for the introduction. So yeah, to kind of reiterate what Carolyn was saying earlier, we wanted the academy to change in a way that was beneficial to the entirety of the community, the fencing community. And so part of that was also through the process team and data team. Like the data team needed to be there to ensure that we are actually asking the right questions, actually figuring out which path is the correct path to go based on the majority opinion of the fencing community here in Atlantia. So of course we had to have data in order to showcase or to understand what path that actually is. Now I won't go into too much detail on the results of the data sets because that's going to take up the whole hour. But I do believe that there is a link available to showcase, like a Google Drive link to showcase the presentation itself. So if anybody asks for that, if they want to see the presentation itself, you can contact us, let us know, or I believe it's available here after this link. But that said, yeah, there it is in the chat. Thank you very much. So we had two essential presentation or surveys that we created and sent out to all the fencing community. The first one was basic demographics. Where do you live generally? Where do you practice generally? How far are you willing to travel in terms of time, in terms of distance, generally speaking, of course, because we don't want to single out or accidentally single out any individual. But the second survey was more on how do you feel about the academy? What is it that what is it that you want to get? What is it that you're trying to do? What are the good and the bad things that you like or don't like about the academy? And the long and the short of it is that the Academy DSP should, as Kedwin said, should continue to exist. It does really good things. But fundamentally, it is originally, before the charter, was not well organized. And because of its lack of organization, there wasn't a really good system to air grievances within the academy, to talk about the problems or the issues that the individuals may find or groups may find. And so the majority of opinions of the data that received lend towards creating a structure for the academy to set up a system that allows for those grievances to be aired and to allow a mechanism for change to be had. And so this is again, I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but when we receive the data and analyze the data and presented the data, the charter and bylaws drafting team basically utilized that to say, okay, so we need to set up a representation system or representative system that allows people to represent members of each level of the academy, and so that their grievances or those they represent, their constituents, can air their grievances and report back to the general council that is to be created in this guild. And so that's basically what the data team or what the data results told us. And just to add on a little bit to this, one of the best things that the academy does by far is their prize fight, the Free Scholar and White Scarf prize fights. Across the entire board, everybody loved that mechanism. And so that's absolutely something that we're going to keep, obviously, because everybody likes it. And then additionally, another item came up that a lot of people liked was the idea of having an annual Academy of Fence event. If you're familiar with Adult Swim and Alphamark, kind of the same thing, but hosted by the Academy. So those are the two really big things that has going for us.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. One of the other reasons that we did all of these surveys was to find out what kind of training people wanted, as well as these other things that the Academy already does well. The role of the White Scarves, the role of the Masters of Defense, the making and the role of the Free Scholars. So all of those things were discussed, and that fed into the writing of the charter, which was very, very general, because that's sort of your belief statement or your mission statement, and then the bylaws, which are much more detailed, and you don't change the mission statement, but you can change the bylaws. So I'm going to ask Master Lloyd if he would speak a little bit about the bylaws, and that's sort of the moving forward, what the Academy DSP can do for our fencers if they join. So Lloyd, would you speak to that, please?
Sure. So as Mr. Scaredwin mentioned, we split into two teams, and we had a team that wrote the charter, and that's about a page-long mission statement on what the Academy is all about, and it's flowery and pretty, and I don't think anybody should disagree with that. And then the bylaws are 4 or 5 pages of how the Academy works, what the offices are, what the Academy does, how it functions. And the most important thing is at the end of it is a process for changing the bylaws. So if what we wrote and came up with, which we tried very hard to match the guidance we got from the surveys, but if it ends up not working or people are unhappy with it, we can change it. We don't have to have a big fight about it. People can just make a change proposal. We'll vote on it, and if it gets a majority, it'll become part of the bylaws. It'll replace or add to the bylaws as appropriate. And then we can move on. So think of the bylaws as linked in the chat as a starting point, as a baseline, and we'll see how that goes. And if we're unhappy, or then we can change it. So we had a team that worked on the bylaws. I don't know, there were 5 or 6 of us that probably worked on that as a group, came up with an early draft, and then we shared it with all of the people that had worked on the process and data teams, and they made feedback. And then we made a public release of a draft and got a bunch of good questions and feedback. And we responded to every single suggestion. We addressed them. All but one of them we actually said, yeah, that's a really good comment, and changed. And one of them we went, yeah, I think we already covered that. And they just missed it. So everybody made really good contributions to it, and that's where we ended up. We did have a disagreement at the end before we went public on what our guidance was as applies to the ranks of the academy. So we had, you know, we had a number of discussions within the group, and we ended up coming up with 4 different ideas on how to do that. So after the next polling that we had was just here's the bylaws, and it has implicit in it 4 different ways of defining the ranks of the academy. So please tell us which one you will like, which one is your favorite, which one is your second favorite, which one is your third favorite, and which one is your least favorite. So we got that ranked guidance. We went through and did a normal ranked election, and the one that was selected was the one that was closest to the status quo. It is not exactly the same as the pre-academy rules, but it is very close. It does explicitly add a place in the academy for the Masters of Defense, and the main other change is the rank of provost in the academy is now open to anyone who lives in Atlantia, who wishes to join, and who holds a grant of arms level fencing award from any kingdom, whereas previously you had to be a holder of a white scarf from any of the 10 or so white scarf signatory kingdoms. So that expanded the definition of provost just a little bit. I don't know that actually currently adds anybody. It may. The one person that I had in mind that I knew would get added got a white scarf in the middle of this process. So she is now under both the old and the new rules.
And right now, actually, Lloyd, would you speak to the Academy Council? How many? Because there will be an election that's coming out either later tonight or early tomorrow morning for the Academy Council, because that's going to be the people who set up all of the way things are going to go from moving from this point forward.
Right. So the process and data teams were largely self-appointed. We decided we wanted to do this. We did go out and recruit some people to try to get diversity. And we don't have somebody from this area. Can we get somebody from this area to come in and participate on the team? Nobody was turned away. Every single person who volunteered got to participate to the extent that they wanted to participate. So even though we were meeting in private, it was not intended to be secretive. But now we want to hand off to representatives of people who are actually elected. So the bylaws specify that we will have a 5-member executive committee, and that will be 1 representative from each of the 4 ranks, plus an extra scholar. So we needed 5 people. We needed an odd number in order to break ties when the executive committee voted, and we wanted to bias the control toward the more student end and away from the master end of the skill level, because frankly, the Masters of Defense know where to get training, know where to go, who to talk to, know how to get things done if they need to. And so the academy should and is in the bylaws focused more on the people that need more support in their training and those kinds of things. So Caredwin several weeks ago put out a request for people to self-nominate, to volunteer, to be on the committee. And we will shortly have an election where each rank will choose its representatives on that committee. And then the committee we will hand the reins off to them. I'll hand the document that's on my Google Drive, that's the bylaws, off to them, and I'll be done for a while. I think most of us will be done for a while. I don't know how many people, I haven't looked at who volunteered to be on the executive committee. I know I did not. And then they can pick up and run things. So they'll get to define how things actually work based on the guidance in the bylaws. And then one of the first things they'll do is they will appoint officers who do different roles, including an ombudsman and bylaws clerk, an event coordinator, or activities coordinator, and a data person who'll maintain the roster and that kind of thing. And that could be, they could appoint themselves, or they could ask for volunteers. And those will be people that will actually do the hard work of making things happen. So I think that's about it. The one thing that Fernfeld mentioned earlier was the Academy offense. That is defined in the bylaws as something that wanders around the kingdom, and that any group that wants to host it can volunteer and ask the Academy Executive Committee, can we host this? And that could be a standalone event, or it could be an existing event. Ruby Joust could decide, hey, we'd like to be the Academy of Defense this year, and this is how we would do it. What do you think, Executive Committee? And the only thing the Executive Committee gets to do is say, yes, you can use that title, Academy Offense, or no, I don't think that sounds good. You can still, we can't cancel Ruby Joust, but we can say, yeah. We can say, nah, that doesn't sound good. Hopefully they wouldn't do that. Hopefully everybody would be on the same page, but that's how that would work, hopefully.
Okay. Thank you. So it's exciting things coming forward. And what I'd like to do now, if there are no questions in the chat, are there any questions in the chat? It looks like there are fabulous links. And okay, so what I'd like to do now is I would like to ask people in 2 minutes or less, so start thinking of your elevator speech here, folks, of what you think the Academy, what is the best part of the Academy in your opinion, and what you think the Academy will do moving forward. The best part of the Academy, in your opinion, and what you think the Academy will do moving forward. Okay, so I will start. I think the best part of the Academy is that it creates community and it celebrates people with prizes. Okay, that's 2 things. I can't count. And what do I think that the Academy will do moving forward? I think that it will create a really good learning environment with the curricula and the Academy Offense that is going to travel around the kingdom. And I think that's going to be really, really fantastic. Okay, so I am just going to go down my list as I see it, but if there's someone else who is in the room who wants to speak, you can just unmute and speak when someone else is not speaking. So I'm just going to go down my list. I'm going to start with Master Giacomo. 2 minutes or less, Giacomo.
Set, go. Diversity and inclusiveness, I think, is the strong suit here. It always has been. The intention from the beginning was to include, and I think that that's going to be the strong suit going forward. We've codified a methodology of doing it. As you know, our kingdom is very disparate, north and south. We have a lot of growing to do and a lot of things that we can accomplish really well, and that leads to where we're going to go. The wonderful things that we're going to do to bring our community, Rapier individual fighters, and then the Rapier Army to a little bit better, a little bit more. Hopefully we'll recruit another 3,000 or 4,000 fighters and have a really good time with that. But I think growth is going to be our pattern here. As we know, Rapier is the still growth or growing combat sport. And I'm kind of looking forward to being here for it, 91 was a long time ago, so it'll be fun to see it.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Is there anybody who would like to volunteer to go before I call on someone else? All right, Lord Ishmael.
So my favorite part of the Academy is definitely the celebration of people reaching milestones. I think a lot of times people can lose track of how much they've grown or how much they've progressed, and things like prize fights, I think, do a really good job of reminding people that you have grown. Something that I think the Academy is going to do moving forward is be even better about helping people to actually grow. From the moment that I joined the Academy d'Espay, I always emphasize that first word, that it is an academy, it's a school, and I hope that a lot of people use it that way, as a way to grow, because it's really frustrating when you're doing something and you feel like you're not growing at all. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Master Joffrey, I see your hand up.
Okay. So the one thing I'll say is just the range and depth of experience for the people and their willingness to share has really been a great thing. There's ideally a lot of people interested in soaking up this knowledge. The great thing about the Academy is it's going to make the connections between people who have things to share and the people who need it. And I think it's got a lot of very generous people, at least in my experience over the years, in general with the SCA, but certainly with Rapier. There are a lot of people out there who are happy to share their skills and ideas with you. So looking forward to getting those together with the people who need it.
Awesome. Thank you. Master Adon, Your Excellency.
I'm going to be the different voice and just express some concerns. The big thing with codifying the Academy, in my mind, is to make it clear for people that want to opt in, but also not assume that people are a part. So there needs to be a good way to, or an easy way to distinguish if people choose to play in the Academy or not, and how it affects that. Because even in the discussion we've had, there's been phrases used that assumes that all of Atlantean Rapier is in the Academy, which is not the case. So the celebration of the prize fights, the codifying of stuff, the promoting and all that, that's all great and wonderful, but we need to not assume, so that we can know clearly if anyone wants to be in the Academy and they meet the various criteria for the different ranks that they are, but there are ways to fight Rapier in Atlantia and not be part of it and not be excluded.
Thank you for reminding us of that, because when you get so embroiled in all of this, you forget that not everybody is a part. And also, one of the reasons why this group felt the need to educate people is because a lot of times people come out to their first event, they authorize, and then someone says, "Hey, do you want to join the Academy?" And they don't really know what the Academy is. And if you ask 5 different people, you get 5 different answers about what the Academy is. So this was sort of an effort to study, how do we present this to people as well? What is it? How will it benefit people, so that people can make an educated decision whether they want to join or not? So thank you. Lord Fernfell, would you like to speak on your favorite thing and what you think moving forward, or concerns like Master Brown did?
Sure. So, well, I'll start with, I'll be standard here, right? One of the things I like, well, the one thing I like the most about the Academy d'Espay is the sense of community that can be built and is built in various areas around around Atlantia. Without that kind of community, I would not be here today to continue fencing. Now, with what I'm excited for, what the Royal Academy is going to be doing is part of the process is putting together or organizing a list of basically a list of manuals from masters. And what I mean by that is the Academy d'Espay does not want to dictate what school people who are fencing wants to learn from. We don't want to control that. But we do want to provide as many documentation, as much research as we can provide, or as we find ourselves, so that they can explore on their own and provide guidance when they ask for it. And so what I'm most excited for, reiterating a little bit, is being able to have an organized database that all fencers around Atlantia can access in order for them to learn and experience on their own.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, Master Lloyd.
All right. Sorry, I was typing. All right. So the thing I like most about the Academy and have for as long as it has existed while I've been around, because it didn't exist when I was first in Atlantia, is I really enjoy the camaraderie and the support and the friendship. And, you know, as others talked about the recognition of people with the prizes and the celebration of what people have done. You know, I liked the ideal version of the recognizing new authorized people as scholars, because it's, you know, you're one of us now. You've accomplished something. We're proud of you. We want you to feel welcome. And I know the armored fighters don't do it that way, but you know, that has become an issue with people not understanding what it is. So the new rules and the new process try to indicate that scholars are encouraged to be someone who knows more about the Academy and knows what they're getting into, and that could be at their authorization if they understand that, or it could be later. And in most people, it will probably be later. So going forward, I'm looking forward to organizing the teaching of rapier and recognizing and making it available to people better, because I think an awful lot of that is happening. We have long tracks of rapier classes at most universities, both historic martial arts and you know, combat theory and melee and all kinds of different topics related to that. And you know, people are teaching at their local practices and they're traveling to other practices to teach. But I think the Academy can do a better job of focusing that and informing people when that's happening. So if there's a need somewhere, the Academy can facilitate finding someone who can fit that need and address that need and support them, even if it's, you know, a virtual call. You know, we can teach some things virtually. It's not ideal, but you know, if there's a need in some remote area, I'll sit down and teach what I know over a Zoom link, and I know a lot of other people will.
Perfect. All right. And so I know that there are other folks in the room who I have not asked to speak yet. Is there anyone who would like to either ask a question or speak to what we've been talking about? I don't see anyone with their hands up. Okay. And if anyone who is in the room also wants to put any questions in the chat, I think that that's available for you to do so, because I have seen other things in the chat. Because this whole process was to be able to put forward what we did, where we came from, where we're going, and then have people ask questions, more of an interactive kind of a process. So is there anyone who has any questions?
If you're done with the primary presentation, we can always stop recording. And then if people want to have a discussion after that, or if people don't want to be recorded with their discussion, that is also something we can do.
Ah, perfect. I think, yes.
I'd like to enter something into the record real quick, just a brief quick. Master Joffrey Gamble is here and Mistress Caradwyn Fergowen are here. Frankly, those two people are the precursors to us having this discussion now. Had it not been for their works in the late 89 with Master Joffrey, and then everything south of Richmond belonging to Caradwyn, as she caused it to happen, I think that for educational purposes, what those folks did and how they did it are not documented anywhere. But the things that they did, the diplomatic behaviors that they did, the growth behaviors that they did, for people going forward, those are the people to talk to about how, why, and where we can continue from where we started to now with inclusiveness diversity, words that we weren't using in the 90s, but resonate now. And that, in my opinion, is very important. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Giacomo, but I would like to point out that it wasn't really everything south of Richmond. There are some areas that I was not able to get to and touch that other people helped to bring forward, and that would be the Black Diamond area. I did go there to play, but there were other folks that were there bringing that area to the forefront, as well as the Tiridon and the area in Virginia near the coast. And I believe that Lloyd was actually integral to bringing Rapier there. So thank you very much for that. But there were a lot of people. It took a village to raise an academy. And I just wanted to make sure that that was brought forward as well, because I did a lot of driving in the 80s and 90s, but there were some places I drove to less than others. So it was lots of people adding in.
There were also a lot of early giants that know whether they're with us in person or not, they don't play anymore. So like, and down south, Royban was a big voice. Grayland was a big voice who has been away for quite a while, but is now coming back, and other people there. So there's a lot of shoulders that a lot of us are standing on. I mean, there was a lot of people that did stuff. And then the various crowns that gave us support over the years too.
Absolutely. We would not have been able to do a lot of what we did without the support of our crowns. So, okay. So if we could stop recording at this point, then we can take people's questions if they feel more comfortable not being recorded with that.
One tiny little thing, since I'm in charge of the recording button, I want to add my little note. I really think that the data was an incredible new thing. It was innovative, and I am a huge fan of innovation. And I got to be part of the process team, and I supported the data team. And what I saw this group do in asking for input from the community and then processing it and making decisions from it is something I don't see very often in the SCA. In fact, I don't see it very often in any volunteer organization. It's tough to do. And there was no manual for it. Like, here's how you survey your community. There's very little that was guidance this group could go on. So I hope other communities out there, when they need to look around and say, let's update what we're doing, they can look at the process that this group went through and be inspired and maybe survey their community, get real hard data, and then make informed decisions. So I love it. This is really good work. So that's my little piece of, yay us. I think that this is a great job. So that's the last thing I had to say. And if anybody else has anything else, we can get it in. Otherwise, I'll stop the recording, conclude, and then we'll have some chat. Good? All right. Thanks, everybody. And here we go, ending the recording. This has been the University of Atlantia Instructor Spotlight for July 2022. Thanks, everybody.